Episode 32, titled Secure Key Management and KMS, we begin with a simple truth that seasoned teams never forget. Cryptographic keys are the crown jewels of security, and everything else in the program depends on how well they are protected. The strongest ciphers collapse if keys leak, rotate late, or sprawl into places they do not belong. Treating key management as a first-class discipline means writing down who touches keys, where keys live, how they move, and how their use is proved without exposing the material itself. The mindset is sober and procedural, not magical. If an auditor asked you today to replay the life of a production key creation, approvals, rotations, uses, and destruction, you could do it with artifacts instead of recollection.
Key generation comes next because every downstream control inherits its quality. Keys should be generated inside validated cryptographic modules using strong, documented sources of randomness, never on developer laptops or ad hoc scripts. Federal Information Processing Standards, FIPs, validated modules, and hardware security modules, HSMs, or approved software equivalents in validated mode provide the boundary that keeps seed and output material from wandering. Document entropy sources, approved algorithms, and key lengths by class so the same recipe is followed for service keys, database encryption keys, transport layer security, TLS, certificates, and signing keys. When creation is deterministic in process but random in output, you eliminate the quiet variations that later become hard to explain weaknesses.
For storage, rotation, and access enforcement, a Managed Key Management Service, KMS, is the practical backbone of a modern program. Centralizing keys in a KMS consolidates policy, logging, and lifecycle controls into a system built for that purpose, rather than scattering secrets across configuration files and application code. The KMS should enforce role-based access, separation of duties, cryptographic usage policies, and tamper-evident logs, while exposing narrow, audited interfaces to applications that request encrypt, decrypt, or sign operations. By pointing all production services to a common KMS, you turn key handling from a craft into an engineered service with upgrades, backups, and disaster practices that can be tested and proved. Separating duties is non-negotiable because concentration of authority around keys creates single-point failure in both risk and trust. Key administrators who define policies, create keys, and authorize key states must be different people from data operators or analysts who read the protected content. Break-glass pathways that bridge these roles during emergencies should require dual authorization, short time limits, and automatic notifications to independent reviewers. If a single person can both mint keys and decrypt data, no amount of monitoring will meaningfully deter misuse. Clear role definitions, mapped to directory groups and ticketed approvals, transform least privilege from an aspiration into an enforceable operating rule. Every key needs a written lifecycle: creation, activation, rotation, suspension, and destruction, with the transitions gated by approvals and captured by evidence. Activation marks the moment a key begins service use and should be paired with configuration updates and smoke tests that prove correct wiring. Rotation replaces active keys on a risk-based cadence, staged to avoid downtime while ensuring old material leaves the blast radius quickly, and should include plans for re-encrypting data when format permits. Suspension disables use without permanent deletion when investigations or migrations require a pause, while destruction removes key material irreversibly and records how and where it was destroyed. Lifecycle without timestamps and sign-offs is theater. Lifecycle with both is assurance. Envelope encryption is the design pattern that scales this discipline across fleets of data. In envelope encryption, a short-lived data encryption key protects the payload, and that data key is itself protected by a master key held in the KMS. Applications request the KMS to wrap and unwrap data keys rather than handling master keys directly, which minimizes exposure and centralizes policy. This pattern reduces the cost of rotation because master keys rotate independently while data keys can be replaced opportunistically during normal writes. It also cleanly separates duties. Developers handle wrapped blobs and identifiers, while the KMS enforces who may unwrap, when, and under what conditions. The result is speed at the edge with control at the core. Backups, exports, and migrations are where strong programs stumble if they assume tools will do the right thing on their behalf. Any operation that moves key material, whether exporting a wrapped key, migrating a tenant to a new region, or backing up an HSM partition, must be designed to preserve confidentiality, integrity, and custody. Use dedicated encrypted transport containers with authenticated peers. Record who initiated the operation, why it was authorized, which artifacts moved, and where they landed. Recovery rehearsals should include restoring keys from backup into a quarantined environment to prove that what you saved is both readable and restricted, and that the process does not leak plaintext at any step. If you cannot safely move keys, you cannot safely operate at scale. Visibility is protection, so enable key usage logging, alerts, and tamper detection as mandatory, not optional features. Every decrypt, sign, unwrap, or administrative action should generate an immutable event that captures principal, key identifier, operation, result, and context like source network and calling service. Alerts should trigger on unusual volumes, off-hours usage, previously unseen clients, or administrative actions that change policy or disable protections. Tamper detection includes integrity checks on logs themselves so that the audit trail cannot be quietly rewritten. A well-instrumented KMS becomes both a control and a sensor, enabling responders to draw a tight box around incidents that involve secrets. Some failures are mundane but devastating. Hard-coded keys in source code, keys shipped inside container images, or long-lived secrets left in environment variables without additional safeguards. Prohibit embedded keys outright and replace them with calls to the KMS that retrieve ephemeral tokens or perform cryptographic operations server-side. If environment variables must carry short-lived secrets, pair them with process-level protections, strict lifetimes, and per-deployment scoping to minimize blast radius. Scanners for repositories and images should run continuously to prevent secret creep, and findings should route to owners with deadlines rather than as informational warnings. The habit is simple. Code calls KMS, not keys. Customers and partners increasingly expect options that place them closer to the cryptographic root of trust. Document any customer-managed key models or bring your own key, BYOK, expectations clearly, including who generates keys, where they are stored, which interfaces move wrapped material, and who can revoke access. Clarify shared responsibility for availability, rotation schedules, and incident handling when a customer key is disabled or destroyed, and make the operational consequences explicit to avoid surprises during outages or investigations. When customer-managed keys, or BYOK, are supported, publish configuration templates, limits, and evidence requirements so implementations converge on a pattern you can monitor and support. Rotation procedures must be tested like any other change that can break production, and rollbacks must be rehearsed before a real failure demands them. Use production-like environments with realistic data volumes and transaction mixes to measure rotation time, cache behavior, and downstream effects on indexing, search, or integrity checks. Validate that services retain the ability to read data encrypted under prior keys for the required compatibility window, and that logs clearly mark which key protected which record. A rollback plan should describe exactly how to revert to prior keys without leaving systems in an ambiguous state. And it should be executed at least once so that it is not purely hypothetical. Rotation that only exists on a calendar will eventually fail on a calendar day. Decryption permissions deserve extra caution because they unlock value directly. Grant decrypt only to identities that must read protected data to perform their job. Scope the permission to specific keys and contexts, and time-bound the grants so that they expire without manual cleanup. For break glass scenarios, require multi-party approval and session recording, and deliver access through just-in-time workflows that leave strong evidence. Service-to-service decrypt should be mediated by narrow tokens with short lifetimes and audience restrictions so they cannot be replayed elsewhere. The bias is toward friction when reading secrets and toward speed when writing or rotating them, which aligns incentives to protection. A quick review helps keep mental models compact. Generation, storage, rotation, duties, logging, testing. Generation inside validated modules with good randomness anchors trust. Storage in a centralized KMS keeps policy, audits, and custody in one place. Rotation on a real schedule burns down long-lived risk. Duties separated ensure no one can mint and misuse without collusion. Logging and alerts turn key use into observable events. Testing turns paper procedures into operational moves that will work on the day it matters. If those 6 elements are healthy, key management usually is. To finish, the key program is defined when creation is controlled, storage is centralized, duties are separated, life cycles are executed with evidence, and envelope encryption, logging, and testing are part of routine engineering rather than exceptions. The immediate next action is concrete and useful. Publish updated KMS policies that codify roles, life cycles, approved algorithms, rotation cadences, evidence requirements, customer-managed key patterns, and emergency procedures, then align provisioning pipelines to enforce them. When those policies are live and enforced by systems instead of memory, keys stop being a source of quiet anxiety and start being an engineered asset your organization can defend confidently. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.